Hey everyone, it's Istebrak. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something very important, something that a lot of you suffer from in your art, which is the three-quarter view. The three-quarter view is something that for some people is a very simple issue. It's still one of the biggest difficulties for their art, but they summarize it with some very simple methods of tackling it, and they think that's enough. A lot of your weakness as an artist can be determined by how successfully you execute a 3D drawing, how successfully you draw a face in three-quarter view. That it challenges you in a lot of ways, and in seeing someone can draw a really good front view for me, and it'll look so awesome, and they'll do their 14-day challenge and it just looks perfect, and then I ask them, okay, do a three-quarter view, and it doesn't, it's nowhere near the same skill level portrayed as the front view face that they did. And it's because it is a direct challenge on their ability, and this is the key term here, this is the theme today, their ability to rotate a shape in their mind. They are not rotating on the z-axis in their mind. They are seeing symbols, two-dimensional, flat, symbolic projections in their mind when they think art. They don't think of it as an open space by which we can access the z-axis. It is in their mind a very flat rendition of, or symbol, or remnant, or memory of what a three-quarter view looks like. Ask yourself as an artist, first and foremost, in your artistic experience, in your artistic journey, ask yourself this very important question. How much of what I draw is influenced by my crippling dependency on lines to form my edges? How much of what you draw day to day is because of your dependency on lines to form your edges? It doesn't end there. It doesn't end when I say how much of it depends on your dependency on lines. It's extended. There's another clause. How much do you depend on lines to form your edges? When you think three-dimensional, forming edges without lines is advanced art. It's not easy to form an edge with zero information. It's like you're asked to write a letter without using a pen. You're asked to form the letter. You're asked to sculpt the letter. It doesn't make any sense because that's how limited you guys are in your art. When I say art, the equivalent of your use of line and the way you draw faces is the equivalent of writing a letter and drawing words with a pen. That's how dependent on it you guys are. So when you come to me and you ask me how do I do a three-quarter view, I have to cover all this stuff. I can't just say, do an eye that is slightly compressed, do a nose that we see from the side, because I have to get down to the root of it. You guys don't rotate in your minds. You guys don't think about rotation. So what the hell do I mean by rotation? Rotation is a very complicated little thing for me to explain because it's all three-dimensional, and all I have is two-dimensional in front of me. Unfortunately, I don't use Maya, and I don't know how to use Maya, so I can't really use Maya right now, and it wouldn't really help because it's kind of backwards, like the backward way of doing it. Like Maya, like a 3D modeling program, so I can show you how to model. This is not the kind of class. I'm trying to teach you guys how to think like a 3D modeler on a 2D surface, which is this. This is 2D surface. This is not 3D. If it was 3D, we would see like this open space, like we do with 3D modeling. 3D modeling programs, and we'd just be modeling a sphere, and we'd have our z-axis right there, and we can sort of move the shape in and out. We have the different dashboard views. But this is not how we're working. I'm trying to teach you guys how to think like a 3D modeler, but as a 2D artist. So when I say rotation, I mean when you draw the face from front view, can you rotate the face on an axis? Can you represent the altitude that we see from the side view? Can you represent that altitude on the three-quarter view level when you're doing a face from three-quarter view? Are you showing me how these eyes compress in width? Are you preserving the symmetry line, that is very important for to maintain or preserve the integrity of human anatomy, so that it seems like it can function and hold up appropriately as it should in order for a face to function properly. Are you preserving your symmetry lines? Are you overlapping parts of the nose, parts of the face with the nose? Because at this moment we have this depth phenomenon called stacking. It's one of the ways to create depth. If you have a landscape and you have the sea and you have rocks and you have the beach, how do you show that these rocks are in different levels? You stack by scale comparison. One object is behind the other. Now, there's a significant distance in between this rock and this rock, so we're not going to be shrinking the eye and then placing the nose over it, because that's called foreshortening. And we don't need that because there isn't enough of a distance between this eye and the nose on top for 3/4 view. What we do need to do is stack. We don't need to compress and shrink. We don't need to shrink, we just need to compress. So the size isn't shrinking because the symmetry lines are kept in place. We have to sit on the same symmetry lines. If we're shrinking the symmetry lines like this, one eye is small, one eye is large, and one eye, and then the nose over top, this is foreshortening. This is if the camera was right beside the person and they were just looking right at the camera. Like the camera was right beside their eyeball. So this is a depth issue. As soon as I say anything that has to do with the z-axis, depth is z-axis. One object having an inward space blocking the way of our visibility for another object. That's called depth. That's called an inward space. That's called space itself. What is space? We don't even know how to define it. I can't define it to you without, real life. If I were just to sit in front of you and I'd put one pencil in front of the other and I'd say this is possible because of a third measurable dimension that we have access to as human beings that live in this universe. We have access to this third dimension, and yet we limit our access to it when we're drawing. Why? Why do you guys limit your access to it? It's very easy to conceptualize something that we inherit from real life. One object in front of another object. So here's how you guys do it. You guys draw the nose and draw the eye. And when you draw the eye, you don't compress. You keep them the same size, looking forward, as if you basically draw eyes that look forward as if it was a front view. Alright, so you do that, and then you draw the nose. Oops. You draw the nose, and you draw the nose, you draw the nostril, and then you draw the other nostril right beside. One of my students, I made a little example for her, and I said, if you see a car from 3/4 view, she's probably laughing right now if she's watching this, hi Shauna. You see a car from 3/4 view, okay? You see the wheels on one side. What you guys are doing is you're forcing the visibility of the other wheel. So basically you're just forcing the wheels up of that car. There you go. There's the wheels right there, nice and visible, just so that it can satisfy your sense of two-dimensional projection. Let go. Let go, guys. Let it effing go. You don't need to over-represent every dimension, every border of this object in order for me to believe it's in 3/4 view. This is enough for me. This tilted axis is enough for me. The parallel tilted axes are enough for me. For me to believe that this car is in 3/4 view. You don't need to show me this nostril. Sometimes, because there is an outward projection, remember the side view I drew? Because there is an outward altitude sticking out, nose sticks out on the z-axis. Sometimes it'll stand in the way of other objects, because remember the depth. One rock in front of the other rock. If any of you have any trouble with 3/4 view, it's because of this problem right here. This is the core issue. There's a lot of extra little tips and tricks and techniques I'm going to show you. Not a lot, I guess, just a humble amount. But that's where it sources from. You guys don't rotate. You guys don't form. You guys symbolize. You guys don't sculpt. You guys project. When I say rock, you guys see like this projection of a rock. Your brain has a little projector on it. And this is your visual library room. And you have this door, projection room, accessible from 8 to 5, closed on weekends. I'm sorry, that was a dumb joke. And you basically, when I say rock, you project this image, and there's your eyeballs, and you see the image in your head. You as the artist, when you see this, when I say rock, you should see this if you're a skilled artist. You see the cube, and then you see the rock within the cube. Some of you just see the rock. If I say eyeball, you guys see a nice pretty symbol of an eyeball. And that's how you guys draw. Maybe you see this because of your, predisposed inspirations. Maybe you see an anime eye with some lashes only on the side, and then when you're attempting to draw a quote-unquote realistic eye, you guys will do the sphere and you guys will do the eyelids, and then you'll still throw those lashes in like that, as if that makes sense in the real world. It doesn't. Eyes don't work like that naturally. This is all symbols. This is all what you guys are suffering from. This is what's keeping you from being a good artist. I'm sorry, this is truth. This is what's keeping you guys from improving. Your obsession with the symbol, your fear of the three-dimensional, which is crippling your understanding of objects in their truest volume, in their truest structure, and the way to really sculpt them in their sculpted stage, in their sculpted phase, in their sculpted form. That's what your problem is. That's what's keeping you from drawing a successful three-quarter view. As for getting in there, understanding this rule and saying, okay, Istebrak, enough bullshit, teach me what to do now. I believe you, I'll fix this, I'll try to form stuff, I'll try to look at objects with a z-axis, I'll try. How do I make this better? Okay, I can't just say start rotating in your minds, because there has to be something that builds that knowledge, that practice in a healthy way. You can't just start rotating because Istebrak said so. You have to take measures to teach your brain to do that. One of the best ways is to tangibly hold a cube in your hand. Become intimately acquainted with the objects you're about to draw. Hold them. Feel their volume, feel their texture. How is that going to influence your reproduction of them in a painting? There's that. Then there's actually trying to do form studies. This is something I assign to every single one of my students, no exception. Doesn't matter if they're there to learn color, there to learn form, there to learn their lines and do better gesture drawings. I don't give a crap. I'm always assigning form studies for a very specific reason, because if they don't have a predisposition of rotating an image in their mind, which is a very uncommon talent, and it's okay not to have that, it's normal, it's human. I force them to learn it by assigning form studies. And the form studies are, as I have shown you before, actual just raw studies of form for form's sake. There are no specific objects. There are always polygons. They are always in an open space. They are subject to atmospheric fade, cast shadows, all of that fun, beautiful light stuff. And they are there just to practice form, just to sculpt for the sake of it. This is one of my form studies, and I'm just there sculpting. Studying in this safe environment has taught me rotation like nothing else in my entire life. I stumbled upon this method by trying to teach a student how to draw, literally. I just told them, try drawing cubes. I don't know, draw some cubes. And then I started trying it, and my art just got really boosted, and my ability to see was really advanced because I started rotating. I introduced myself to the open cube canvas, which is basically this, instead of the flat, empty canvas. And this flat, empty canvas right here dumbfounds all of you. Dumbs, I don't know. Dumbs all of you out. Because you're like, oh, I have to fill it now. I'm so scared. If you have the ability to imagine this as an open space, you get to fill this image with structures. And these structures are not just basic blobs as I'm drawing now. Like I'm just trying to think like an artist who hasn't yet been acquainted with the form and sculpting. Instead, you think in angles. You see the cube involved. You see different kinds of shapes and how they can, I don't know, it's going to take me a while to make sense of this weird shape that I drew. You're going to think in angles, and then you're going to think in surface area. You're going to think in angle of the surface area towards the most key and important thing about sculpting. You can't sculpt unless you have a light source. Because remember what I said earlier. Ask yourself how much of what you draw is influenced by your crippling dependency on lines to form your edges. Are your edges always needing a line? If they are, that's the red light. You need to start fixing your art, and you need to rethink your career if you're not taking that step, that extra step that's going to make you one of those great artists that do those great leak splashes or whatever. If you're not taking that step, then stay dependent on lines. Do it. Do you. But if you want to improve, you have to ask yourself, are you dependent on lines to form your edges? If so, you want to fix it. Remember the light source. That's how it is in real life. It's all physics. I'm not giving you anything here that cripples your creativity, that cripples your sense of identity. That I'm not telling you what color hair to dye your hair. I'm telling you simple physics that will enhance your art, that will give your art that extra believability that gets you closer to your viewers, that believability that gets you hired, that gets you paid, that lets you pursue you. You're so skilled in your ability to see and recreate and reproduce what's in life, that gets you paid for it, that you can depend on it as an income. That's big. That's a big skill. That's not something everybody has. That's why we're paid for it. It's not everyone can sculpt. Not everyone can rotate an object in their brain. Like I said, normal humans can't do that. It's not something we're born with. We have to teach ourselves to think like that. So forming edges without lines is advanced art. And this all relates to three-quarter view. Of course it relates to three-quarter view for one very big reason. Are you thinking in symbols when it comes to the three-quarter view? Or are you thinking in cubes? Are you thinking in the sculpture? If you are, you won't stack. You will stack. You will keep the wheel of the car on the side that's not visible to us. And you will, it's kind of weird ass car, this looks like a dumb old Porsche. You will leave one side visible and the other not visible because it's just simply not visible. Let it go. Give it up. Stop trying to paint what isn't visible. The car wheel is not visible. The other side of the nostril is not visible sometimes. In an extreme three-quarter view, it isn't visible. In extreme side view, it's completely not visible. So make the comparison. You have the extreme side view, and then you have the front view where they're both visible. At one point, if you keep rotating this, it'll be visible, and then it'll slowly get less and less visible. And then it will have been one of those really extreme three-quarter views where the nose is nearly covering the eye. This takes me to my next point. The stacking is necessary. What you guys are always conditioned to think is that if you draw a three-quarter view and you did the nose very well and it's stacked and it's not visible as you're supposed to, you still leave spaces in between the eye that are the perfect distance from each other. You still put the nose in a perfect distance between both eyes. Both eyes are still the same width, and the nose is not overlapping one of the eyes. So here are the rules. When you three-quarter view, what to think about, what to do. Eyes compress widthwise. Oops, they compress widthwise. So it's not eyes plural, it's just one eye. And it's the distant eye. The eye that moves away. And this takes me back to structure and back to form. What happens to the cube is that when we rotate a cube and make it three-quarter view, what happens is that one corner is more distant than the other corner. Which corner here is closest to us? This one. This is gonna, if you were to choose a road and travel on that road, we would get to this corner quicker than this corner. This is closest to us. This is compressed. Width compression. The nose is not in a perfect center between both eyes. The nose, again, is also compressed because on this cube, there was another cube that we saw in perfect center. When we were looking at the cube from front view, we didn't see the sides of it. But when we pushed the cube into a three-quarter view, we began to see the side. I'm looking down on the cube as well. We began to see the side of that cube. That side of that cube is also tilted. There will be parts that are compressing widthwise. And we see the side of that nose. So this side of that nose here, we see it. This side right here, this side of the cube, we don't see it anymore. So guess what? That nostril has disappeared. Don't show it because the cube, that face right here of the cube, this one, is looking in a completely different direction. It's looking in the opposite direction. Same with this side. looking in an opposite direction. So the nose needs to, if the one nostril is always hiding, all right? Let's make it easy and simple. Nostril hides, and the nose is not in the dead center. Not in center. Okay. What else? The eyes are not perfect distance. Oh, that says the same. That's sort of the same point I made. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's the two biggest rules. I can't really overcomplicate it because I'm trying to keep this video simple. I can talk about, you know, when you have two eyes front view and they're both symmetrical, what you take out of this, you add to this side in a 3/4 view. So if you took out 1 centimeter of the 2 centimeters length that it was before, you add it to this side. So this is 2 centimeter plus 1. So this becomes 3 centimeters, and this becomes 1 centimeter. And you do this for everything. And that's how you properly compress, mathematically compress. But no one wants to talk numbers. They just want to eyeball it and hope that it looks right. And it will. Eyeballing, you can get away with lots of eyeballing. But remember, the nose is not in perfect distance. This eye is closer to this eye. One nostril hides. The nose is not in center. Nose not in center. And one eye is closest to the nose. Okay? This is all clues. These are all artifacts of rotation. These are all what we accredit to rotation. These little specific rules that I'm throwing at you that I guess you haven't heard in other videos is because of rotation. It might sound new to you, but trust me, it works. It makes your 3/4 views feel more believable. Part of the cheek here is also compressed, and part of the cheek here, so it's not the same width as this cheek, and part of this cheek is hiding behind this nose. So if you've got the light point at this symmetry level, some of that light point is going to be hidden by the nose. And this takes me, sorry, that was the dryer. This takes me to my next point. When we have an object that is 3-dimensional and is not made with lines, sometimes this line that you guys need, like you need air, is not visible. Sometimes when we paint a nose, we can paint a nose without having that line there. So let's paint a nose together. Okay, I'm not going to do any measurement, I'm just going to try to do it fast. I'm going to try to paint the nose in 3/4 view. I'm going to throw down Steve or Bob, I don't know which one it was. Okay, just using a soft brush. Just trying to shape the nose from this side. I'm going to separate the angle of that shadow, the cast shadow, from the nostril itself. I'm going to throw in the nostril hole. I'm going to keep the darkest of that nostril away. I'm not using that yet. I'm not painting that in yet. This nostril is entirely in shadow. Now I'm just going to create some edges. This edge that I'm doing right now is naturally where you guys throw a line. You guys throw a line over here. Don't do it. Right here, this is where you guys like to throw lines. Don't do it. You also like to draw in the other nostril and throw in a big, weird little, overly compensated, non-visible, weird, deformed nostril, just trying to pop its head out and get the attention. It's not visible. So don't draw it. I'm going to throw the secondary light source in. It's a very rough nose, sorry. In the typical style. This edge here, it's a hole in the nose, so it needs a typical edge. That's where you would throw a line. Instead, throw a sharp, unblended edge to replace that line. And I'm just going to continue this shadow. So what am I talking about? Sorry about the weird nose. What am I talking about, essentially? I'm talking about the fact that you've got the light spots, which are really important to finish off the nose. You've got the tip of the nose here. You got the tip of the nose, you got the tip of the nostril, and the nose is leading up along its individual light spot on the face. Sometimes you guys go back to your primitive line years and throw in a line. Why? Why are you throwing in a line? This is not there in real life unless you got a Sharpie and drew it on the exact spot. This happens because you guys don't know how to fathom the fact that you can just simply do this and it'll work. It'll work just fine. It's gonna work, believe me. Sometimes the shadow might be a little bit tilted and there'll be a little bit of a wider angle shadow just sitting on the side there. Sometimes the high point is really late and it's not so sharp and it works more as a specular kind of shine traveling across the bridge of the nose on the most sharp part of it. But why do you feel the need to throw in a line? If the light is coming from this side, this whole area will be shadowed anyways. Okay, so you still don't have a line, you just have an edge sometimes. The core of your issue with 3/4 view, I don't care who it is you are, if you're advanced, if you're new to art, and you're still having trouble with 3/4 view, the key to your 3/4 view problem is entirely accredited to your inability to rotate a shape in a 3-dimensional space where you let go of your obsession with the line. Your obsession with the line keeps you keeping the line in the image and then slowing down the image. You slow down the believability of the image. Sometimes leaving it like this is nice and fresh and real, and it works, and it makes your image better because you're not throwing in some random ass line that makes no sense anatomically or physically or structurally. Architecturally even it makes no sense. Why would you need a line? The light is doing the job of signifying the high point of that form study. This is a form study, right? It's not a nose. Stop thinking of it in its label, because then you're just going to draw it in its label. You're going to draw its symbol. So whenever I hear nose and I try to find the symbol version of it in my mind, this is the kind of nose I see. It's like a hooked witch nose. I don't know, from childhood, I don't know why, with like a wart on it. Anyways, stop thinking in symbols. Trust your structure. If you don't rotate enough, it means you're not doing enough form studies. You're not studying the stuff you're supposed to be studying. You're studying this other stuff that's not going to help you. Why would you do that? Why would you study the stuff that's going to slow you down if where you're headed is only accessible by this method of thinking? This method of thinking is what Michelangelo did. He sculpted. He was a sculptor. He wasn't a sculptor, he was a sculptor. Yeah, have you guys ever seen Michelangelo sculptings? Oh my God, they're amazing. It's like how did he think on that level of detail? While he was sculpting, what did he see? How did he read his reference? It's all one big physics world, and either you access it through a 2D canvas or you access it through marble. Either or, it's still the same physics. It's unified. It's one big universe that has the same rules, be you millions of light years away, or you come back right here to the same spot you're in. Atoms will act the exact same way. Light will act the exact same way. Nothing is, unless, you know, all that other crap and exceptions and gravity and all that shit. But who cares about that? It's art. So the reason why you guys are having trouble with your 3/4 view, you don't sculpt. And most importantly, I referred to this earlier, you don't measure. For Pete's sake, you guys don't even throw the symmetry line over your image. You guys don't even measure it. You guys don't take the time to do this, the time to measure this eye from this eye, to take away the distance that you had from this eye in front view and add it to this side. To ask yourself, how extreme is my 3/4 view? Is it the kind of 3/4 view that lets me see the other side of the nostril? What kind of 3/4 view is it? Do I have a reference? If I don't have a reference, what the hell am I doing here? Am I just trying to master? What am I trying to do? Am I trying to figure out the limitations of my mind? Is that a hobby for you guys? Get a reference. Use the reference. It's going to teach your brain memory, a memory of a more valid source of information, which is the real life. What better place to bring your to get valid information than where it really happened? So that's what you're supposed to be doing. Get a reference. Use a reference for a long time so that you can memorize and have dependency, a valid dependency on something that is real. Don't look at another artist, because your reproduction of that has already been so watered down. You don't want to water down from something that's already been watered down, which is someone else's rendition of a nose. Go straight to the source, which is the real life, the real life place that it happened, whatever it is you're trying to reference. Your ability to rotate teaches you where to throw secondary light source as well. Tells you where's the edge of that cube. If you were to draw a symmetry line over this nose, the line that cuts right across the middle of this nose's anatomy, it's actually a little bit to the side, but I don't have time for that. You know that this is where it starts to dip back down, and then at one point it dips back down and it cuts off, because we don't see that other side of the cube. It dips back down and away. So we know we're limited only to this side of the cube that's tilted like we tilted it on the axis. Sorry, it's supposed to be this way. And we know that only this side of the cube will get the secondary light source. So that's how me know where I'm placing the secondary light source on the nose, this little diffused light that I threw in. It guides you through everything. It guides you through everything you're going to be working on. In the darkest dark of that nose, I'm going to place it in the darkest place of that nose. I'm not going to place it ever. It's not going to be a big blob of dark. I'm going to place it only where it is darkest and deepest in the nostril, because that's where light has zero access. The less access light has, the darker the shade you choose. And remember, guys, I'm working in grayscale here. You don't want to be dealing with sculpting and dealing with color, so quit color for a while. Take my advice. You don't need the extra stress. If you're having trouble with sculpting, you're having trouble with the core physics of art, the core observational physics in art, it means you need to take a break from color for a second and just place the shadows and place the values and the grayscales only where you really, really need them. And those areas, yeah, that's not impossible. That's not rocket science. But it also takes some serious level of study so that you can find out, because they can also be very hard to find if you're not thinking as a three-quarter, as a sculptor. It becomes really hard to find these areas, these places where a dark spot or dark little thing is supposed to go. I have 1,001, not really 1,001. I have a lot of videos guiding you guys where to place your dark spots, basic techniques, lists to follow. I have all of that for nose, mouth, lips, ears, whatever. They're old, but they still apply. They're really old. I used to not be able to draw back then when I taught them. No, that's not true. But still, they're old. So keep looking out for more different kinds of methods on how to three-quarter view. But that's the stuff I want you guys to think about. It's not easy. And I know it's not easy. There's a reason why everyone is having trouble with it. There's parts that you have to compress. There's stuff you have to measure. There is stuff you have to hide that isn't visible, that you shouldn't paint because it's not there. And as you sculpt all of these three-quarter view influenced features, don't depend on the line in that moment of anxiety when you're like, oh my God, I've hit the bridge of the nose and here I am. I don't have a line. I don't know how I'm going to define the bridge of the nose. I don't want to just paint nothing. You know what? Take it from me. Quote me on this. Paint nothing, because nothing is there sometimes. Sometimes there isn't even a light bridge. Sometimes there isn't even that. Sometimes there is most of the time. But you know what? If you're going to paint a line, it's like that saying, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. If all you have is a line, forget it. Don't draw it. Leave it empty. I'd rather see it empty than see a fucking line just moving right across this. Alright? If there is ever a shadow behind this, it's because the light was shining in that direction. And that's pretty much all I have to say. The light in this nose that I drew is coming down on a perfect angle from the side. 45-degree, like that Rembrandt lighting. So there's a minor shadow moving down, slightly softer than Rembrandt. So if you guys have any questions, please ask me in the comment section. I did want to make this video much longer, and I wanted to make it more researched, but I can't do that unless I know for a fact that I've established the rule in my channel that you guys have to be studying form. I'm not here to teach you guys how to make your anime stuff look better and teach you a better distribution of eyelashes for your anime eye. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to form you guys into real illustrators, people who can call upon their ability to sculpt and rotate in their mind on a 2D surface, stuff that is 3D phenomenon. Encapsulate three-dimensional physics in only two dimensions, meaning you're missing a dimension and you're still doing it somehow. To project, you are illusionists. You guys know exactly what you're doing when you throw in a light, because you know it's going to create the illusion of a third dimension. That's the kind of artist I want to make you into. Good luck with your work, and ask me any question you guys want me to cover in my next video. I'm going to have a list developing on collarbones and on metal and all those tiny little things that you probably want to hear my view on, but it'll all pretty much follow the same kind of routine. Okay, bye. Have a great day.